Sam Bankman-Fried has become the face of the collapse of the crypto industry when the exchange he founded, FTX, fell apart in late 2022. Its collapse spurred a flurry of criminal charges. And as FTX grew, he amassed billions in investments and used donations to gain access to prominent politicians.
He now stands accused of stealing clients' money to finance risky bets at his hedge fund. He is out on $250 million bond, staying at his parents' home, preparing for trial, and has pleaded not guilty to 8 counts of fraud and conspiracy. Joining us now is actor Ben McKenzie. You've seen him on The OC and Gotham, and now he's the author of Easy Money, Cryptocurrency, Casino, Capitalism, and the Golden Age of Fraud, which has just hit the New York Times bestseller list.
Yay.
So congratulations, first off. Pretty impressive.
Huge.
I know you actually met and interviewed Sam Bankman-Fried. What do you make of the legal troubles he's facing?
It's fascinating. I interviewed him last summer, so a few months before his empire fell apart. And, you know, at the time, obviously, I couldn't I wasn't there to accuse him of any crimes, but there were several things that didn't quite add up. As you pointed out, Sam owned a hedge fund that was marketed as a market-making service, and the FTX, the exchange. So right there, that would be a conflict of interest in a regulated market. But because the crypto market has not been sort of stringently regulated, and he was operating in the Bahamas, he was potentially able to get away with a lot of stuff that he's now been charged with. The fraud charges are very serious. You know, they dropped a charge today because this campaign finance violation charge, because they tacked it on to the extradition charge. The charges that were included in the extradition treaty. But he still faces wire fraud charges, securities fraud. So if convicted, that's, you know, dozens of years in prison.
So many people know you from your roles on TV. Not a lot of people know that you majored in economics at the University of Virginia. But what drew you specifically to crypto? There was at one point when we had all these very well-known celebrities talking about this, advertising for it, saying, hey, you should get involved in this. And you were one of the few people that were in that space saying, I actually really disagree.
Yeah, I mean, it was the word currency. You know, I'm a storyteller. Words are our tools. Words can be used to educate, to entertain, but also to deceive and to fraud. And these are not currencies, economically speaking. I have to be, you know, we have to make this very, very clear. And they're not being used like currencies. People aren't going out. I did this. I went to my neighborhood deli and I tried to buy a bagel with Bitcoin. And they looked at me like I was crazy because you can't do it. They're investments. People are putting real money into them, hoping to make real money off of them through no work of their own. That's an investment contract under American law, except basically Bitcoin got classified as a commodity in 2014. And so all of these other cryptocurrencies fell into this gray area. It's a really sort of fascinating example of some of the flaws in our regulatory system. We're the only country in the world that separates our securities regulation from our commodities regulation, puts them under 2 different regulatory bodies, the CFTC and the SEC, and different committees in the House and Senate. It creates perverse incentives where Congress people are on these committees, regulating these industries, but also getting donations from people in the industries. And that's one of the things that Sam was accused of doing.
Sounds fair to say that you don't feel the industry is regulated enough. There weren't a lot of guardrails around it when it was launched, right?
Absolutely. I mean, look, securities regulation, we've had federal securities laws on the books since the 1930s. Because in the 1920s, we didn't. And the Roaring '20s was a lot of fun until the crash of 1929 that led to the Great Depression. So one of the things, getting back to your point, Allison, about what drew me into this was it felt like almost a century later, there were 20,000 potential unregulated, unlicensed securities. That's how many cryptocurrencies there are, being sold to the general public by some of the most famous people on earth. We were revisiting a time a century ago before federal securities laws existed. This was terrifying. So when I testified in front of Congress, this has all the hallmarks of a Ponzi scheme. It's a particular kind of Ponzi scheme, a very sort of rushing nesting doll of Ponzi schemes, but it's potentially the largest Ponzi scheme in history.
And of course, you're an actor, so we got to ask you your thoughts on the strike briefly.
Right. Well, look, I'm a member of all 3 guilds. I support my unions. It's difficult for us. I mean, all we're looking for is a fair deal. It's surprising how far apart we are. But I'll put it this way. What I'd love to do is get back to acting work and stop talking about crypto.
For now, we're glad to have you on the crypto, though. Thank you for being here. Author of Easy Money. You can get that anywhere you buy a book. Ben McKenzie, thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.